Today's vaccine is three disturbing servants dwellings with Backstories by none more. Like, and link to the video will be the description below. Go in second class. So let's get into this vaccine in 3, 2, 1.
Destiny's inevitable. There was once a family of three, a father, a mother, and an 8-year-old son who loved to draw. Although they lived in a rented flat, the father always dreamed of building his own house, for which they all started to save money. On one absolutely ordinary, unremarkable day, Little John, that was the name of their 8-year-old son, drew this picture of him, his mother, and father standing in front of their house. The parents were happy to see the drawing, but suddenly they noticed that the father was lifted up for some
What the? Okay, why is the father lift me up? That's a little creepy.
reason, as if someone was holding him from above, or he was flying. Asking his son what was the matter, he gave an answer that shocked both parents.
What?
John said that by the time they built the house, their father would no longer be with them. He would be
What?
dead, but his spirit
What? What the?
would always be with us, and he couldn't help but draw it. The parents were stunned and didn't know what to do with this information. Maybe they should take him to church, to a priest, or maybe forget about the idea of building a house. They decided that they would do both. The priest performed his rites, saying that he had done everything he could, but he did not promise any results. They changed their mind about building a house and decided to continue renting a flat. Everything was fine. Time was passing. Nothing foreshadowed trouble. But 5 years later, a terrible thing happened. The father of the family had an accident and died on the spot. For mother and
What the? Oh, that's bad.
son, it was morning. Nobody remembered about that drawing at that moment. After another year, having recovered from all this grief, the mother and son decided to buy a house on mortgage, as it was their father's dream. When at last the house was purchased, having settled in, they decided to take a photo of the two of them against its backdrop as a memento, putting the phone on a timer. Stepping away from it, a click was heard. It was only when the mother looked at that photo that she remembered that incident, because that photo looked one and the same as that old drawing of her son. She started crying and looking around, realizing that her husband's spirit was somewhere near. The son, not understanding why his mother was crying, silently hugged her. So the three of them stood hugging each other outside their house. Grandmother artist.
Wow. It's sad that the father died in a car accident. Wow.
It happened at a time when a young family with their young daughter, Emily, moved into a house. They both had remote jobs, so they chose a house away from the city and cheaper. After some time, Emily wanted to start painting, so she and her parents went to a stationery shop. After buying paints, Emily pointed to a huge canvas and said that she wanted to paint on it, but her parents said that while she was still young and had not learned to draw, there was no point in spending money on such a big canvas, so they bought her letter-size paper. What actually happened, according to her parents, was that Emily drew all sorts of incomprehensible scribbles on the sheets, and she liked to hang the sheets on the wall in a strange order. Everything was fine, until one day, Emily asked her father to hang her scribbled sheets on the top of the wall. As it does not reach, her father was surprised, but fulfilled the request. Only after a few days, when her drawings on the wall became more and more, her parents started to realize that these sheets with illegible scribbles made a huge, almost on the whole wall, beautiful picture. Parents, of course, were shocked by the talent of their daughter. Now it was clear why she wanted to buy a huge canvas at once. But the parents, for some reason, did not care how their daughter, at the age of 4, is capable of such drawings. They were already mad at the thought of how much they could earn from the fact that their 4-year-old daughter draws such masterpieces. But I, as a person who knows the outcome of the story and has studied the history of the house, tell you that in this house died grandmother, who had a huge talent in drawing. But she never realized it. I guess you have already understood that the spirit of the grandmother artist was in the girl Emily. Back to the story, not having to sort out what to what, the distraught parents, and decided to squeeze the maximum out of the so-called talent of their daughter. The mother began to force her daughter to draw, but Emily replied that she still has no desire, and she draws only when inspiration comes. Of course, her mother did not care, and she forcibly kept her daughter in the room until she draws. The girl cried, tried to run away. The mother shook her daughter's hand, saying to draw at least something. The tension was building up, as suddenly, Emily, with all her strength, or rather to say the strength of the grandmother artist, stabbed the brush with the sharp end directly into the mother's chest. Her father heard the screams, came running into the room, saw the pool of blood, in horror began to call an ambulance, but it was too late. Since that day, several months have passed. The child has had a lifelong psychological trauma, but the spirit of the grandmother artist has never returned to her. The third family was not
Wow. That was wow.
one whose son or
That is messed up. Literally.
daughter liked to draw. There was also a 7-year-old boy, a mother, and a father. It all started with the fact that when it came time to cut the nails of the 7-year-old son, the mother noticed that some of the nails, namely the index finger and thumb, had already been chewed off. At least she thought so. The son replied that he did not do it and did not know how it happened. The parents concluded that he did it unintentionally. But it happened again, a second and third time, which no longer seemed like a coincidence. The parents decided to cover his nails with clear nail polish, thinking that would solve the problem. But at one point, late at night, when the son had long since gone to bed, and the parents were watching TV, they heard a strange scraping sound that came from the other room and did not stop. Going into their son's room, they were horrified to see the child scraping the bottom of the bed with his fingernails on the wood. The most horrifying thing was that he did not wake up. Running up to him, they began to wake him up and shake him. When the child woke up, he wondered why they had woken him up so late and what had happened. Turning over the bed, they saw what had been scribbled all this time. There was a picture of a house, apparently the one in which they live, and right under it was an incomprehensible rectangle with people around. The parents were, of course, shocked by the situation, but they couldn't understand what the drawing meant, having decided that it was just a child's nightmare. Although the son said that he did not dream anything, they took the child to the priest and hoped that everything would stop. But a few days later, when they suddenly heard the sound of scratching nails again, they ran into the room, woke up their son, turned the bed upside down again, and saw that the picture was supplemented. And here is what: in that obscure rectangle under the house surrounded by people, there were inscriptions about requests for help. Help, help me. They did it for nothing. The parents were horrified when they realized what was going on. As it turned out, a long time ago, on the territory of this house, was buried a young man, but buried him not after he died, but
What? Okay, that's a little creepy.
after he fell into a lethargic sleep. At that time, no one knew about it, and apparently buried alive a living person. At night, through a
What? It was alive when it was buried? What the? Okay, that's a little creepy.
child, he tried to tell everyone about it, even though he had already been buried more than 100 years ago.
Wow. That was wow. Literally. Wow. That was 3 disturbing servant dwellings with Backstories by number. The link to the video will be the description below. Go and check it out. And drop a like if you like. And comment down below if you want to see more reaction like this one. And subscribe if you new. And click the bell to be notified below. In what? Bye. Wow.